started. We are back, people. Your favorite, and I'm never lying when I say this. Your favorite, how long has it been since I said that? Your favorite sports podcast,
Right.
roaming the airwaves, rolling with Ramos, is back. We are back. Wow, the coronavirus, you set us up big time. But you couldn't keep us away for a long time. Episode 95. Oh my gosh. Can you say cinco? Can you say 5 episodes away from 100? And what better way to do this than while this virus is going? Because it can't be stopped, baby.
That's right.
Anyway, this week, I don't know if you've guessed the number of the person that we're paying homage to today, but we pay homage to a former American football defensive end who played primarily for the Chicago Bears of the National Football League. He was a key part of Buddy Ryan's dominant Chicago Bears defense in the 1985 season, led the NFL with 17 sacks, and was named MVP of the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was Super Bowl 20. He is a four-time Pro Bowl defensive end, and he recorded 137.5 sacks over 15 seasons and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011. Rolling with Ramos, episode 95, the Richard Dent edition. And
Richard
I'm
Dent.
the one that happens to hold the last name Ramos. I like to specifically thank my daddy for that one, Mike Ramos in heaven. I love you, and I miss you every day, and you're not missing anything. You're missed, but you're not missing anything. And I want to take the time to look at you over here to my right because it's a split screen. Because I haven't seen you in a while. In all true essence, America, no matter how much you hear me, he is the star.
I'm not the star.
Tristan, we are
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy time with, Corona and all that stuff going on, out here and trying to keep safe. Um, Learning, trying to learn new normals, like with this technology. Like you said, Facebook gave us back the feature that we wanted, and now we're trying to figure out how to operate this thing in its fullest capacity. So it makes it a little challenging, but we're gonna work it out. We'll figure it out. We always do. It's just a slight bump in the road. That's all. But I'm glad to be talking to you, talking about sports. Basketball is here. Prayerfully, the NFL lasts. I know we're gonna dive into all that, so I'm excited.
Make sure you drop those comments down below. Make sure you talk to us. Episode 95 for all you Bears fans out there. The Richard Dent edition. I'm still calling this the after the Rona while we still in the Rona and how sports is still affected by it, Tristan.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we start somewhere that you love so eloquently because you do have a segment on this show that is called Sports, College Sports in a Minute with Tristan. We actually start in college sports. College life. I could not imagine going to college the way I went to college
Right.
in this time because the whole college experience and what you think or not think of it is completely gone at this point.
Right.
Um, one minute you're going to class and you're going to wear a mask, the next minute you're doing it virtually. The camaraderie, there is no homecomings. I'm so upset. And if you ever been to an HBCU homecoming, you understand the implications of that. I will tell you that I forgot to put my phone on silent. Yeah. But
Oh, of
anyways,
course.
we're going to keep it moving. The big news in college football, Tristan. The Big Ten will not play football in the fall with the possibility of competition in the spring due to health concerns related to the coronavirus pandemic. This is according to USA Today. After a dramatic few days full of meetings among coaches, athletes, directors, and university presidents, the stunning decision marks a potential tipping point for the bowl subdivision to play a season amid the coronavirus pandemic.
Hmm.
Hours after the Big Ten's decision, the league was joined by the Pac-12, which postponed all sports until January 1st. That is next year at its earliest. The mental and physical health and welfare of our student athletes has been at the center of every decision we have made regarding the ability to proceed forward, Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren said in a statement. He also adds, as time progressed and after hours of discussion with our Big Ten Task Force for Emerging Infectious Diseases and the Big Ten Sports Medicine Committee, it became abundantly clear that there was too much uncertainty regarding potential medical risks to allow our student athletes to compete this fall. The Big Ten's decision also includes the postponement of all fall sports, including volleyball and men's and women's soccer. For many months, we have hoped that the return of fall collegiate sports might be an opportunity to restore some sense of normalcy and provide brighter moments for our university, our city, and our state, said Wisconsin Chancellor Rebecca Blank and Athletics Director Barry Alvarez in a co-signed statement. Even so, the decision by the Big Ten to postpone the fall 2020 sports season is the correct one. Question, Tristan, if they're saying that it's the correct one, was it the correct decision?
So, this one kind of keeps me a little torn, quite honestly, because as a fan and as a lover of sports, you want to say yes. You want to say, you know, oh, you want to say no. You want sports to happen. You want to be able to say that there's going to be sports. You want these guys to play. I think about. It's not even necessarily the ones that are like the superstar college athletes, the ones that are first round picks, second round picks. I'm thinking about the ones that probably needed this junior year. They probably need this senior year to put something on tape for scouts to see. I mean, how many times have we seen players in college that we probably didn't hear about before, but then all of a sudden they come out of the blue, and they had this great season, and that helps them get drafted as instead of being undrafted or anything like that. So I think about those guys. Um, I think about the stars in the aspect of like, Justin Fields. Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence supposed to go head to head for the Heisman Trophy this year and things like that. So, as a fan, you're heartbroken for these conferences, for the student athletes to not be able to have their fall season, and wondering what their future is going to hold. And I've heard a lot of people speak about, they're saying, well, they could just go to class, they could just be regular students. It's not all about football, but for some of them, it is. For some of them, they got into these schools because of their athletic ability, with aspirations of getting into the NFL. So, for a lot of them, they were looking at this the way basketball players treat their year in college when they know they're only going to the school just to play for 1 year and then go to the NBA. It's the same thing, for these football players. Now, as a person, as a human being, I feel like this is the best that you can do. They don't have the structure that the NFL, the NBA, and all these other big leagues have, where they can control the environment of the players to that extent. I mean, I watched the episode of Hard Knocks, the debut episode the other day, and I'm just seeing the lengths that the Chargers and the Rams have gone through in order to keep their players as safe as possible during this training camp. All the changes they made to the facility and all that stuff. Universities can't do that, and and it's unfortunate because you feel like they should have the money, but the no matter the amount of money you think that these universities have is nowhere in comparison to what these professional teams have. So it's as a human being, I feel it was the best decision. I know it was a tough decision, but you got to think about the welfare of the person, not just the athlete playing on Saturdays. But I do feel for the student athletes for sure.
You brought up an interesting point about the athletes, student athletes actually being having to be students. We'll talk about that later. But there is
Sure.
some backlash for everybody. Just there's 2 points of this coin. So
Hmm.
not every Big Ten school signaled in alignment with the Big Ten's decision. In a statement attributed to the University, Nebraska said it was very disappointed in the decision by the Big Ten Conference to postpone
Hmm.
the fall football season, as we have been and continue to be ready to play. Ohio State athletics director Gene Smith said he was aligned with the university president-elect Christina M. Johnson in our efforts to delay the start of the season rather than postpone competition. This is
Mm.
an incredibly sad day for our student athletes who have worked so hard and been vigilant fighting against this pandemic to get this close to their season, Smith said. Ohio State said that all student athletes will remain on scholarship and remain in the same COVID 19 testing, quarantine, and isolation protocols. Athletes will still have access to team facilities. Now, when it comes to the student athletes protesting postponement, they have not been happy neither, Tristan. Hashtag we are united. Hashtag we want to play. All led by Trevor Lawrence. We all want to play football this season, that initiative says. Establish universal mandated health and safety procedures and protocols to protect college athletes against COVID 19 among all conferences throughout the NCAA. Give players the opportunity to opt out and respect their decision. Guarantee eligibility whether a player chooses to play the season or not. Use our voices to establish open communication and trust between players and officials. Ultimately, create a college football players association, representative of the players of all Power 5 conferences. This in a tweet by Clemson QB Trevor Lawrence, who is leading the initiative. Guess who else is also helping him lead the initiative, Tristan?
Justin Fields.
Your favorite president, 4-5. He
Oh,
said Donald Trump backs college athletes who want to play during coronavirus pandemic. On
his days
Monday,
are
he
numbered.
showed his support. The student athletes have been working too hard for their season to be canceled, he said. Trump wrote on Twitter with the hashtag we want to play. His declaration on Twitter came shortly after reports indicated that the Big Ten and Pac-12 officials had already decided to cancel their seasons. So I don't understand how you're at war with one phase of sports that's professional, but you're not in war when it comes to students going to school and paying for universities. I'm utterly confused, but that's your thing, Trumpy. Anyways, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said Monday afternoon that she spoke to the president about the news. He would very much like to see college football safely resume their sport. They worked their whole lives for this moment, and he'd like them to have a chance to live out their dreams, she said. Okay, Tristan, the handling of this pandemic is one thing outside of sports. We know in sports it takes a whole nother thing. The NCAA's chief medical officer and his two primary infectious disease advisors. That's a long ass title. You have to be a medical something. That's a long title. Anyways,
right.
advisors say the nation's focus should be on controlling the coronavirus pandemic instead of playing fall sports. With one advisor saying we simply are not there now. Carlos Del Rio, Executive Associate Dean at Emory University and a fellow with the Infectious Diseases Society of America, says, I feel like the Titanic. We have hit the iceberg and we're trying to make decisions of what time should we have the band play. We need to focus on what's important. What's important right now is we need to control this virus. Not having fall sports this year is controlling the virus would be, to me, the number one priority. You hear this from one of the top medical advisors. We have college athletes at this point. Their health and their wellness is in the palm of these people. The health and wellness of young people who are not playing for incentives. Let us remind you what college football is. It is not the back of that jersey and you getting paid something for it. It is your likeness. It is what you do on that field or on that basketball court, or whatever you do for college athletics that is being used to pump money into these universities. Trevor Lawrence's jersey is probably worth millions, but he will never see those millions. And if he does see those millions, it is a scandal. The health and wellness of young people is in the palm of their hands. Young people playing with no incentives. That makes universities a lot of money. You hear Nebraska and Ohio State. We all know what Ohio State does. Having issues with the postponement. Is it more a representative of their own selfish desires to see these men and women play, especially in college football? Or is it about the, or is it really about the students' hopes and dreams that we're trying to, even the president is trying to plaster? Do we care about the athletes, or are we caring about all the money that's about to be missed? Are they worried
So
about the repercussions at all?
I'm for me, based on the track record of boosters, the NCAA, and all those in between, for me, I believe that I would call it about 60-40, maybe 65-35 of them caring more about the profit that they're going to lose. Because when you look at it, I mean, look at what these college coaches make, the head coaches. Look at their salaries. Look at what the university brings in on every year. Because we're watching these guys like they're professionals, except they're not. They're literally students. Like they play a game on Saturday and still have to go to math class at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, like the rest of us that went to school. But they're treated like celebrities, just like you said. Trevor Lawrence jersey, although when it's being sold, it doesn't have Lawrence in the back of it, but everybody know who's number 16 for Clemson, and I'm sure that jersey is selling for no less than like $45. The legit college jersey. And I know for a fact that it's more so like I said, these boosters and the university reps and all those people that are concerned because they know they're going to take a huge hit financially by not having these games being played. So I'm not gonna play them like they're completely heartless or whatever, and they're just thinking about that. Like I'm sure they're thinking about the safety of the kids, but they're more so going to think about that money because that's what's really bothering them. That's why they're fighting it so hard. Because if you really think about the situation at hand, we don't know how this virus really runs. Honestly, we don't know. We've got all these theories. If you can't be 6 feet within a person. You got to have on a mask all the time. But there were some things that talked about it could be in your clothes, it could be on your shoes when you're stepping. We don't
I
know
saw a
exactly how this thing
chicken
runs.
today.
Exactly. We don't know how this
Chicken.
thing runs. We don't know how it runs. So because of that, we have to say like we don't have the resources to really ensure that these
America.
kids are
We're
going to be
talking
okay.
about the land of the free now. The America
Exactly.
doesn't have
Yeah.
those resources.
It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. And the difference between them and the professional league is that the professional leagues have the money, they have the resources where they can pull from. Because trust me, let it not been an NBA restart, let it not been an NFL. Now you're talking big time money from TV revenues, the salaries of the coaching staff, the coaches, every single player. Think about 53-man roster, all of them get paid. Practice squad players get paid a certain amount. So that's a lot of money to lose rather than the college rankings where you're not paying the players, you're only paying the head coach, the assistant coaches get a certain amount of money, and then most of the other money goes to the university anyway. So they can I don't want to say they can afford I I don't want to say the professional ones can afford to take it to put it out, but that's really what it is. They can afford to issue the resources that's needed for them to do what they have to do during this time, and the college ranks can't.
Are we thinking of these? Are we thinking of these parameters? You and I talk all the time about young athletes and the guts for guts, glory for glory that they experience on the field. You've shared your experience being as a football player, being on the field and feeling pain and saying the hell with it. I'm gonna walk it off. I'm gonna
Right.
run it off. If I'm sick, I'm gonna throw up and I'm gonna come back. We know that young athletes, as far as their bodies are concerned, aren't always the best in understanding their bodies and what they're doing to them on a daily basis. You think, and when you think about the ideology of what the young, this 18 to 34 demographic, our generation in this country, we still getting on flights. We still going out, and as much as we can to go party, we still going out to party because it's that young invincibleness that, okay, if I get it, I'm 20, I'm 31, I'm 28, I'm 25, I'm 24, I'm 18, I'm gonna bounce back. What we're missing is that if we catch it, we can infect somebody's grandmother, or you can infect your parents that don't know, may not have that immune system being over. We're
Right.
missing that bracket. But when you talk about student athletes in that same parameter, the understanding and the lack of understanding in this virus. It can't just be put to these universities, but what comes to mind is Jordan McNair. He was fully putting his body to the test, and no one knew what was going on with him at all, Tristan. Nobody knew. So, and look at the lawsuits that ensued and the publicity that came from the University of Maryland with that alone, and everybody went down for that one. So then when you turn around and put the coronavirus in this, God forbid you're out there practicing in 100-degree heat, trying to get ready for the fall. A fall which also comes to mind when it comes to the flu. So we don't know the difference between the flu or the coronavirus. And Trevor Lawrence passes out. And we find out it's because he had a DLU movement moment. He didn't even know he had it. And he had the virus. And something, God forbid, bad happens to him. Are we not paying attention to something like that? Are we not even trying? It's college football, not even trying to look in that far. But it's also
I'm not.
something that needs to be paid attention to because that's the devil advocate of this whole thing, correct?
I'm not saying that they're not looking that far because if they weren't, then the pack. I mean, you got to think about the big for the Big Ten of all the conferences. For the Big Ten to say no is huge. It's like it's you would almost say it's almost like if the SEC says no, right? You just got to shut it down. There's just
Right.
no everybody watches the SEC. That's most of these first round picks and all that come out of the SEC. If the SEC says no, forget it. You know, but the next stepstone from that was the Big Ten. So because you're talking about historical schools, Michigan, Ohio State, you're talking about some historical schools that are known for football. If they said no, that means they're taking it seriously. But you're just going to have a couple universities like Nebraska, like Ohio State, that are going to still try and push the envelope. They're trying to join other conferences or whatever, trying to do what they can to still have a season. They're going to do whatever they can until ultimately it's a no. But I'm not going to say that they're not, as a whole, they're not taking it seriously because they wouldn't have canceled.
We can't put we can't put how much can we put on the young athletes to be aware of what's going on, or they're just young. They're going to when you're 18, 19, 20, all you thinking is I want to play football.
Well, they're young, but they're young adults. They're not. It's not like teenagers. So
Yeah.
they got to have some accountability. They got to have some responsibility with this. But what people got to understand is an athlete's brain is it's just wired different. If they feel, some of them probably feeling like, man, I'm in the best shape of my life. I eat right. I work out every day. I'm in peak form. I mean, I'm a college athlete. I'm in peak form, and they probably feel like they're not going to get anything. They're going to be okay. But like I said, we just don't know how this thing operates. Von Miller had COVID, and he's one of, if not the best pass rusher in football. He's in physical prime shape and he had COVID. It's just what it is. Like we don't this thing is unbiased. It doesn't have a particular flavor to go to. It's just whoever gets it is going to get it. So, you know, it's the old adage of saying you got to protect the athlete from himself because an athlete's always going to want to compete. An athlete's always going to want to compete. They're always going to want to go for it. But you have to be the wiser, especially with student athletes because they're so young. They're going to think irrationally. They're going to think they can play. They're going to be like, look, the NFL's trying it. Why can't we try it? Why can't we do it? They're going to think like that. So you have to protect them from themselves. And unfortunately, this is where we are.
How afraid? Because you are a student athlete. I mean, we go and you said it earlier. Some kids go to schools to play a particular sport, but there is the student before the athlete. When you actually got to go to class and that's all you have to do to participate or actually do a virtual lesson, how afraid are student athletes actually afraid to be students?
Oh, they're very afraid. A lot of them are very afraid. See, here's the thing where I want us as a society to not be so naive on. Because like I said, I've heard reporters and analysts they say, well, you take time to be students, go to school, do your classes, do all these things. And the ones that annoy me the most are the ones that were professional athletes. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, daggone well that you went to that specific school because you either knew how to hit, you knew how to run, you knew how to throw a football, you knew how to catch a football. You didn't go there because your grades were top notch. Now you have to have grades, to get into these schools. They're not just gonna let anybody in. You know what I'm saying? Like most of these guys, they were on the honor roll and stuff coming out of high school and things like that. But they're not looking to go to this school to be super students. You take the classes. That's why most of them are communication majors. You take the classes that you need to take, and then you focus on your sport, and that's what they came to do. You know that, you see that a lot of them came there for that. That's why you see a lot of athletes, they go back to school once they're in the league because now they can actually focus on being students. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it happens. So I wish people would stop being so naive, thinking like, oh, they could just easily shift their mind to being a student. If I've been training this entire time, thinking I'm going to get a chance at another season to get myself possibly to get drafted into the league, do you really think I'm just sitting there worrying about my studies all day? You really think these professors? You think a professor's gonna be like, oh, you know what? You had a C in my class, so I'm gonna tell your coach that you shouldn't play, and you're one of the star players on this team trying to play for a championship? You think that? You think teachers are really doing that to these guys that they know are like not like the regular schmegular student athletes, the ones they know like there's a chance that you're gonna get into the NFL. There's a chance you're gonna get into the NBA. You think that they're gonna hold these kids back when they know your main purpose is to get in the league. Like going to basketball, you can look at Kobe Bryant when Kobe Bryant was in high school. God rest his soul. You look at Kobe Bryant when he was in high school. Kobe Bryant was taking classes. He went into a class that he said he didn't even do the homework on. Now he had like a 3.8 when he left it, but all those teachers knew he was going to probably go play professional ball.
That
I'm not
ESPN
gonna
video of him saying he's going to who's he going a
uh,
oral uh
yeah, oral presentation
oral
class or something.
presentation class. He said, I don't
Yeah,
have a clue what we supposed to be talking about. I'm about to wing it.
don't know.
I hope that wasn't for the cameras. Might have been for the cameras. But
But I mean, and he's
in
someone
the
that's
end, that
very,
might be true.
and he was someone that was very astute, very intelligent, and even those teachers just knew you know a certain guy's like you're meant to play professional ball. I'm not going to be the one to stop you from going and making millions of dollars doing what you want to do.
That's just on TV shows they try to do that. We know that's not
Exactly.
real life.
That's not realistic. It's not realistic. So, I just wish people would stop harping on these guys and making them feel like it's just easy for them to do. No. Some of this is life this is a life altering situation for a lot of these guys. Life
We are
altering for
facing
them
it.
and their family.
If you're seeing the comments, Tristan, let me know because for some reason I can't see them if there are any. Anyways, you're tuned in to Rolling with Ramos, episode 95 for all you Chicago Bears fans out there. This is to pay homage to Richard Dent because this is episode 95, the Richard Dent edition. And we are 5 episodes away from 100. You're seeing us do something a little bit different. We are on my page because something's going on with our Rolling Ramos page. We can't seem to get a live going on there. But don't worry your little heads because not only is he the star and one of the best West co-hosts a girl can ever have, he is my technician. So he's going to put this episode on the Rolling with Ramos page. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, Rolling with Ramos, make sure you take your behind over there and subscribe. I say that nicely. I love you. Anyways, we're going to move on to some news coming from the XFL, Tristan.
Mm.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson among group buying XFL for 15 million. Count them. Former WWE superstar Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Danny Garcia, and Jerry Cardinales, private equity investment from Redbird Capital, have teamed up to buy the XFL for 15 million. The XFL announced. According to Sports Illustrated, the deal, which was reported by Sportico Scott Soshnick, comes just hours before the league was stated to be auctioned. This is a Hollywood ending to our sale process and the start of a fantastic new beginning for the XFL with the best possible ownership group going forward, XFL President Jeffrey Polak said. The acquisition of the XFL with my talented partners Danny Garcia and Jerry Cardinale is an investment for me that's rooted deeply into two things. My passion for the game and my desire to always take care of fans, Johnson. The Rock said in a statement. With pride and gratitude for all that I've built with my own two hands, I plan to apply these colluses to the XFL, and look forward to creating something special for the players, fans, and everyone involved for the love of football. He also added, this passion venture allows me to create opportunities for other players to showcase their talent, take care of their families, and make their own dreams come true. The XFL shut down its operations during its inaugural season on April 10th and laid off its entire staff. The league cited the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic as its main reason and then filed for bankruptcy 3 days later. In May, Vince McMahon said that he had no plans to attempt to buy back the league. He first announced its return in 2018 and reportedly spent more than 200 million dollars on it. The 2020 XFL season only made it through 5 of its 10 scheduled weeks. It averaged about 1.9 million viewers on Fox per game. Tristan, at one point, the XFL seemed like it was on the rise. Now, during the pandemic, it seems like it needed a sense of resurgence. And it comes from the people's champ. Can I give you the elbow? The Rock. How much is it a match made in heaven at this point, right? At this point in time, is it the right time? And The Rock, him saving the XFL. What do we make of the new partnership?
I think it's a match made in heaven. One, you have The Rock, who is business savvy, has enough experience just in industry to understand business, understand how to run, different brands, as well as him being familiar with football. I mean, let's all go down memory lane a little bit, and we got to remember that before we knew him as The Rock in the WWE, WWF, as I call it, the best era ever. Um, we knew
The
he
difference
was doing
between the F and the E.
exactly, exactly. It's so much better. But I digress. That's for another time. Um,
Lies, we
he
cheat, we steal.
exactly, exactly. He was a part of the national championship, Miami Hurricanes. And was a starter on the D line until he got hurt, and then Warren Sapp came in, and we all know what Warren Sapp did. That's the only reason why he ended up being on the bench, because Warren Sapp was just that amazing. But originally he was going to be the starter. So he's familiar with football. Tried to get into the NFL, didn't work out. Went to Canada, tried to do his thing in the Canadian Football League. So he's very well familiar with the game. He has a rapport with a lot of the athletes that are currently, in the NFL. Athletes that were trying to get in the NFL couldn't make it, and he's looking at it as an opportunity to give them a shot to be in. And people have to remember the XFL, the second go round. We know the first time was kind of like gimmicky and things like that, but this second go round was actually showing some promise. Literally, the only reason why it really just faltered was because it was in its rebirth season, and the Corona hit, and it just didn't have the revenue to keep it, to sustain it, and keep those guys employed. I think if it wasn't for Corona, I think XFL probably would have still been going. I watched a few games of the XFL. It was really high quality games. It was, of course, it wasn't the NFL, but it was still good to look at. It was good football being played. Um, so I think with Dwayne coming in now, and Vince ain't a football player.
Yeah.
Vince don't know, he don't know ins and outs about football like that. He knows how to establish businesses. That's how he knows. That's his thing. So he thought he could do that. But now you got a guy that has somewhat of a football mind, knows, understands it, and probably can pull a lot of strings to get things, moving forward in the right direction. I'm actually very excited to see what The Rock and whoever the other share owners, because I know we highlight him because he's the big name, but there were a lot of other people involved in taking ownership of this league, as well as and I'm so sorry. I wish because you kind of surprised me with the XFL one, or else I would have dug in a little more of my research, and because I want to give credit to that woman who's
Danny
the first
Garcia.
female.
We are
Thank
going to
you.
talk about her next.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, being the first female to to own a league is
Yeah.
amazing. So this is big time.
You talk about the I made a statement a long time ago. I said football after the Super Bowl. I said football is over now. What do we watch now? A lot of you out there reminded me that the XFL still was kicking. So it became something that sports fans was looking forward to as a stretch outside. There was also talks of, well, hell, all of us, as much as we love watching the NFL, we don't like the practices of the NFL. And if the XFL wants to make something out of these out of these players that are exiled or can't make it into the league, let's make something of it. I mean, there was talk of Colin Kaepernick going over there.
Hmm.
Other play, if Ocho Cinco wanted to play again, if guys like Terrell Owens who still are looking good, we can give opportunities elsewhere to guys who can't get back in. And what difference that would have made. We still can make that a possibility. You talk about the evolution of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He said in 1995 he had $7. He had $7 in my pocket. He said, and I knew two things: I'm broke as hell, and one day I won't be. In 2020, Tristan, $320 million says he is the highest paid actor in the world. Miami Hurricanes. We know the football career did not work. Professional wrestler, WWEF, whichever one you call it, The Rock, the People's Champ, captivating audiences. One of the biggest names in professional wrestling. The
Absolutely.
acting, Jumanji. How wonderful has it been to see the evolution of his career from then until now, and how even more great is it that he now has a chance to intertwine his career with his first love of football? You spoke a little bit of it, but
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And then I think for anyone that wants to, that might have felt discouraged, their first love being football, whatever your first love might have been, you might have not, been able to accomplish it in a way, but there might have been another avenue that comes in that you can excel in and do great and be able to bring it back in full circle is amazing. Anyone that knows me knows The Rock is one of my favorite wrestlers all time. Um, he's the reason why I can raise my eyebrow because I used to like force it to go up there when I was a kid until the nerves got used to it and now I can do it at will.
I'm
So,
not doing
you
it.
know,
I don't even have no eyebrows unless I grow in them.
like it was huge. It was a huge as a kid watching him
Can you do it?
playing with my. Yeah, I can do it at will. I can
Oh,
do it
okay,
anytime I
okay.
want.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
So,
Keep talking.
so I mean, it's huge for me to see it. Being a big fan of him,
Take a break.
and just how charismatic he was from beginning to the end, and it just kept growing, and it was either you love to hate him or you hated to love him, but either way, he had your attention. And then to go over into acting, which a lot of people can't do, and we used to see a lot of these wrestlers try to do it. They try to go into acting. There was a string where I forgot what the movie was called, where these guys were doing the same movie, and it was just different wrestler, but the same
The
movie. I
Rock
forgot
was
John.
the tooth fairy. He made it cool.
I mean, listen, he made the Tooth Fairy seem cool, and like wore tutu wings, whole nine. Then did that little cute little Disney joint where he was playing quarterback with the little girl and all that stuff. Then he was part of Fast and Furious, Jumanji.
Ballers
Ran
is amazing.
Ballers is amazing on HBO. Rampage was also a great movie. Skyscraper, like he literally, him being the highest paid actor is not a fluke. I can honestly say none of his movies missed. None of them. I've
Those
watched
acting
all of them.
stats. Yeah.
It doesn't miss. And he's playing the same kind of guy. This jacked up action hero kicking butt. But it's great. It's great. So just to see him just do all this and then to come back to his first love being football is amazing. And like I said, because he stretches himself, he's so charismatic, he's so smart and so determined. I just don't see him failing at the XFL.
We're going to give her an honorable mention because you gave it to her earlier.
Yes,
Dwayne Johnson, The
absolutely.
Rock on Twitter. Taking a moment to illuminate this very cool and huge milestone, my XFL partner Danny Garcia becomes the first woman to own an entire sports league independent from a team. She was the architect in this acquisition, and now we go to work for the love of football. Danny Garcia the founder and CEO of the Garcia Companies and TGC Management, became the first woman to own a sports league independent from a team with her purchase of the XFL. Garcia is also the co-founder of Seven Bucks Production, a full-service production company launched in partnership with Johnson. Shout out to her. How does this speak to the evolution of women in sports, Tristan, particularly in high office positions? This was a big power move, and she was the architect in it all.
It's a huge power move, and it's something that was bound to happen. We're seeing it more and more. Uh, um, lady referees in various leagues, coaches, assistant coaches, the WNBA getting more notoriety, things of that nature. So it was bound to happen where we were going to see a woman being able to be in this kind of position. And I know we have lady owners in the NFL, but they're mostly inherited by from their husbands or their fathers or things of that nature. But to see someone just independently just come in and say, "Look, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to bring to the table," and to be the architect of it is major. I'm seeing we're closing the gap between what men and women can do as far as being in higher excuse me, as far as being in higher power. I mean, even let's look at the NBA with the bubble. Um, 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 his name escaped me that quickly. The San Antonio Spurs,
Becky
Popovich
Hammond.
has let Becky Ham coach majority of the games in the bubble while he's keeping himself away from everything because of COVID. It's just amazing to see, and I'm just so I was so happy when I saw that. I'm so excited for women in sports and in industry in general. Being CEOs, being presidents of anything and everything they want to do is awesome. I mean, even look at you. You got your own show. You got your own brand. Like this is what we're supposed to do. Women are supposed to be in this position to be able to do their thing and show that they can not only be comparable, but some of them can actually be better because there might be an element that you all as women bring to the table that guys just don't have in them that could probably bring things closer and draw things closer. So, kudos to her. That's what I really
And
want
that
to see
has
the
nothing to
success of it.
do with how we look. It has everything to do with what we can do.
It's all about the It's all about the intelligence, but but more so than the intelligence, I also think it's dealing with the compassion. And let me be very wise on how I phrase
I
this.
understand.
Men are very competitive just naturally. We're always thinking to compete. So in any situation, it's competition, competition, competition. And it's not to say that women don't have competitiveness, because of course I've seen it all the time. I have females in my family that were awesome athletes and super competitive all the time.
Pull out the
But
spades, brother.
that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like women are competitive too, but I just think there's also an element of compassion that could be brought to some games to understand it better. You know, where a guy might not be able to reach certain viewers like that.
Yeah.
When there's a certain compassion that you all show, a certain care. That one thing. I wish I remember her name, and I feel so bad. But the assistant coach, the linebackers coach for the Arizona Cardinals, one thing that the players used to say was they loved how she was firm and tough like all the male coaches, but she also knew how to be nurturing, which was totally different from what the other coaches felt. So some of the younger players that would come into the team, she knew how to talk to them a certain way if they had a rough day at practice or whatever. She knew how to talk to them and deal with them a certain way where she still gave her authority, but she knew how to talk to them to motivate them in a different way
Now,
that guys can't do. Yes, that guys can't do. And so I'm pro women coming into doing and doing what they feel they can do alongside of men and not feel challenged or not feel like it has to be their looks. It has to be, none of that. It's just I'm just as smart as you at this. I'm just as competitive at you as you are with this. I can make this thing go too. So I'm always pro for that, and I'm just like I said, I really want the XFL to succeed, not only because of The Rock, but because of Dana. Being in that position, it's going to pave the way so much.
well, a good friend of mine that you may know well, his name is David Aldridge. He always told me in mentoring me that you should talk to players and try to talk to them as much as you can because there's a way that you can talk to them and there's a way they'll open up to you that they won't open up to
They just won't for a guy. It's facts. It's facts. And like I said, it's not about flirtation. It's not about attraction or looks. It's just there's just a different element that you all bring that you just might not, there might be a question that I ask and they're not going to give me, but they'll give to you just because of whatever energy you bring to that.
We got to move on. Now, this beginning of this segment might make you a little angry.
Oh
But
yeah.
we have to talk about it. And I think you know what I have to talk about because you texted me about it last week. And it just seems as though, as we go into our NFL segment, that this has been the most hell of an offseason for whatever name you want to call this team. For right
The
now, we're calling
Washington football team.
you had 8 damn names and you couldn't pick. I was kind of going
It
for the Red
takes
Wolves.
it
I
takes
ain't gonna
time. It
hold you.
takes it
The
takes
Red
time for
Wolves,
all
the
that.
logo was hot. I ain't gonna hold you. But you
I'm
had
I'm
eight,
I'm I'm
nine.
pro Red Wolves.
I was going for that too. But you had 8, 9, 10, 11, 20 damn names. And for
Let
some
them take
reason,
their
you didn't
time.
want to pick one. It might have been you being you just stubborn. Oh, we
I'm
just gonna go by the Washington team.
I'm gonna acknowledge that. I'm gonna acknowledge it. Go ahead.
They just have numbers on their helmets and a freaking colors. Well, I mean,
I'm gonna acknowledge it.
come on. I'm still going to acknowledge it as well. But damn it, there'll always be the skins to me. Like I understand, I get it. I'm not against it, but
They
I'm
came out.
not holding it. I'm not holding nothing against the name change, nothing like that. The skins, the red wolves, the tails, the burgundy and gold, whatever the hell you want to call them. But this off season has not been pretty to him, Tristan. And we start with a statement. On Thursday, this was last week, we learned of a potential domestic violence related incident involving running back Darius Geis. And we immediately alerted the National Football League and have continued to work with them during this process. We then met we then met with Darius to inform him that he was excused from all team activity pending a review of this matter. This afternoon, we learned that there were multiple charges filed against Darius. Upon review of the nature of these charges and following internal discussions, we have decided to release Darius immediately. According to an article in USA Today, dang, you don't want to make it to USA Today, do you, bro? What happened to Outside the Lines? Because if you made it on Outside the Lines, you did it. If we were trying
Yeah,
to find out speculation. Anyways,
yeah.
Loudoun County Sheriff's Office spokesman Craig Troxel confirmed to USA Today Sports that Geis surrendered himself to authorities last Friday evening. People, this was last week, and was later released from custody Friday on $10,000 bond. The 23-year-old running back faces 3 counts of assault and battery, 1 count of destruction of property, and 1 count of strangulation, which is a felony in Virginia. The charges stem from 3 separate assaults that allegedly occurred at Geis's home in Ashburn, Virginia on February 14th. Dang, how y'all arguing on Valentine's Day? March 13th,
It
and
happens.
April 17th. According to Troxel, he added that the incidents were first reported to police in Montgomery County, Maryland, where the victim lives, and later investigated in a coordinated effort with Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, which became aware of the allegations on July 22nd. Attorney Peter Greenspun, who is representing Geis, wrote in an email late Friday night that his client adamantly denies the charges. Darius will defend these charges in court where a full vetting of allegations will take place, said Greenspun. In contrast to actions by local law enforcement and the Washington football team that assumed the worst, directly contradicting every sense of fairness and due process. Washington moved quickly to cut ties with Geis, releasing the running back less than 2 hours after he turned himself in, as documented by a reporter of the Washington Post at around 5 p.m. Geis, 23, was selected by Washington in the second round of the 2018 NFL Draft, but has struggled with injuries throughout his young NFL career. The LSU product missed the entirety of his rookie season with a torn anterior cruciate ligament and a series of knee injuries, limiting him to just 42 carries over 5 games in 2019. Now, Tristan, we all know seen this before in DC because it was a very different move than 2018 when Washington claimed linebacker Reuben Foster following his release from the domestic violence charges he was facing in San Francisco. An uproar ensued over the move, but Washington opted to let legal channels decide Foster's future, and indeed, charges were dropped. On Sunday, this was last week, Foster was activated after missing last year with the knee injury. Tristan, it has been one hell of a season for the team down 95 South, off season as you will. From owner Dan Snyder and his fight with this whole team name thing that finally blew up in his face. From should he step down? Now we're talking about sexual assault allegations and women coming out saying they weren't treated properly within the Washington Redskins at the time organization, and Dan Snyder was a big part of that. Never in the news for anything good are the Redskins. Neither are they winning in the timeline either. But how is it? How has it been watching the off season go down in Washington? What do we make of Geist and his poor decision making? There's reports coming out that he strangled the girl and she got conscious and he sat there crying. I'm not understanding. What do we make of Geist? What do you have to say? I know you have a lot to say about all of this.
Well, here's what I gotta say about it. As far as Darius Geist is concerned, I hope he gets the help that he needs. Um, you, you just don't condone domestic violence. It's just a no. You can't do it. I mean, there's really there's no excuse I can really give you. Like, you just can't do it. You can't do it. To have multiple counts, it's not like it was just one, even though one is one too many, but to have multiple counts, um, as well as, uh, you know, strangulation to the point of the lady being unconscious. I mean, there's no place for it. There's no place for it anywhere. Not even just in sports, but just anywhere in general. There's no place for it. So I really hope he gets the help he needs. I do hope justice is served properly, however which way go. But I also hope he gets the help he needs. Now, just to talk strictly on the football aspect of it, if you caught me on Friday, I probably would have been a little more animated for you.
Were
If you
you
caught me on
screaming
Friday,
out the ends?
I
Was
was.
it an audible?
I was.
I'm missing you. A black man turn red.
I know. And if you caught me on Friday, you probably would have gotten it. Here's the thing. The reason why I say that is because I have been on this mountain, and you know that because we talked.
Yes.
I've been I've been on this mountain from day one about Darius. I said if he can get that injury bug off, he's gonna put the NFL on notice because he has all the skills. When he was coming out for the draft, people called him Baby Beast Mode. And when you watch him play at LSU, that's exactly who he was. It was like Baby Marshawn Lynch, and for him to have fallen in the second round was incredible. I was just like, I can't believe that we were able to get this guy to fall in our lap like this. Like I couldn't believe it. Like we got Deron Payne in the first, and to be able to get Darius in the second, I thought it was a home run draft steal for us. Um, but the injuries, we saw flashes, and then he got hurt, every time, and that was discouraging. But I was hoping, like, okay, this is the year, like, finally snap and get to it. Um, but it didn't. Unfortunately, we're not going to see it. Um, I saw a lot of people were upset because of the fact that the Redskins, how they handled this whole thing with releasing him when they released him so quickly with it. Um, I wasn't.
Yeah.
The reason why I wasn't was because
We've
I
been here
think
before.
we've been here before. We've seen how it looks where not only our team, but other teams slow foot this process. The backlash that comes with it, the drama that comes with it. And one thing Ron Rivera, which I respect him for, he was very clear, was that he was going to really have a no nonsense policy with this team.
Yeah.
We asked for culture change, we asked for organizational change, and this is part of it. When you have something like this come out about you, you cannot be a part of our franchise.
No.
Especially when it comes out a week after that scathing article about the previous regime and the sexual misconduct that was going on within the organization.
So they might already
So
known about this and swept this under the rug, and now it's out and it's out in the open again.
exactly. So when you see this kind of stuff happening, and then you come around and now you got this domestic thing on us. You think we got time to talk about that when we're trying to get these players ready to play football? You think I got time to talk about that when I'm trying to determine if Dwayne Haskins is going to be my franchise quarterback? You think I got time to talk about that when I got all these rookies that got to learn these plays? You got new coaches, new system,
A
new
paying
everything, and we
game.
got to learn all this stuff. You think I got time to deal with you and your foolishness? No, I don't. I also believe they felt that they could make this move, one, because he was still in his rookie contract, so they knew they weren't going to get hit too hard salary cap wise. Two, he even though we saw flashes of brilliance, it wasn't enough to say, let's just see how this plays out before we do anything because we don't want to lose him as a commodity. Because as far as we're concerned, his body is made of glass. I mean, there was a report that came out that he hurt his knee, the same week before this report came out. So we don't even know if he would have been practicing that because he had hurt his knee. So again, as far as we know, he's injury prone, so we can't do anything about that. Also, people have forgotten about Bryce Love. I want people to look at tape about Bryce Love. Bryce Love at Stanford. Bryce Love was everything that Christian McCaffrey was for them. Heisman Trophy finalist. So he was no scrub. He had that injury that ended his college career. We drafted him late, knowing that he wasn't going to play last year because he was recovering from that injury. So now you got a full year off of football, full year off of wear and tear on that body. They said he's looking great in camp, so let's see how it looks. But if he's anything like he was at Stanford, trust me, us letting go of guys is not going to hurt us. Believe me. So, and the fact that we drafted Antonio Gibson this past draft, who's going to be in the running back room. So we got Adrian Peterson, the ageless wonder. We got Bryce Love, who could potentially be that Heisman candidate looking running back from Stanford. And then we got Antonio Gibson, who's basically a Swiss Army knife that we put all over the field. Basically, our new version of Chris Thompson. So we're going to be okay running back wise. It now, as far as guys' personality, how he was, and all that stuff. Yeah, we're going to miss that, but we're going to keep the ball rolling. And like I said, I loved it. I even watched the uh, Ron Rivera's press conference from a few days ago. And every time they brought by, Darius Geis is like, look, I don't want to discuss that right now. I've already given you everything that we said. We made a statement last week. We're moving forward. I love that because that's what you need for your organization, especially an organization that has had a history of drama,
Yes.
had a history of off the field issues. Now going through a whole rebranding, restructuring the
It's no
culture,
point
doing
to
all
eat
this stuff.
into it anymore.
Exactly. So he's like, we're moving forward. This is what we're doing. This is what we're about right now. This is what this new era that we're stepping into with this franchise is what it's about right now. And I loved every minute of it. So I know people are upset, but I wasn't. He did it to himself. He's a grown man. He knows right from wrong. He knows his responsibilities. It's unfortunate. I wish the best for him. I hope that he gets the help he needs. I hope she gets the help she needs, whoever the lady was. But we're moving on.
That was the only thing I was more upset about. When I first heard, I was like, "Come on, dude. This is not the time to be involved in activity as such." Not to mention, I think we've all learned. I hope we all learned from Ray Rice because let's be real. If the Ravens suspend Ray Rice with information that they already knew, 6 games off top, once public
Exactly.
opinion, now at this point, God forbid there's video or something of this, or the 911 phone call comes out because public opinion would not have been able to j- jump on Ray Rice's or the Ravens' decision or the NFL decision as much as it did. If they suspend him 6 games, it's like, well, what you want from us? We gave him the highest max penalty. Now, maybe it would have been a prodding of just eliminate him for the whole season. But at this point, we've also showed him that he's not welcome. So we don't want that happening again. But you talk about decision making and making the right decisions, and these guys, when we talk about football, one of the things that came out with Ray Rice and that whole domestic violence incident, and everybody's trying to dissect the psychology of a football player now, and they get off the field, and he makes a living trying to in a violent sport, trying to duck guys like Hadamik and Sue, and that's what he does for a living. The ability to not be able to turn it off when you get home. Some say that they can. Some say that they can't. We've had issues with CTE and all that type of stuff, junior seau. The NFL, we can say, has tried, but the continuing pattern, it's becoming, I mean, we're looking at guys like Antonio Brown, the continuing pattern of domestic violence or even sexual assault at this point when it comes to NFL players, Tristan. Are we going to one day see that end, or what more needs to be done? Is there lack of education? Is still lack of punishment? Is it still lack of 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 putting these guys through counseling? What is needed? Because this is I mean, now it's taking away what we love of the sport, and people are looking at it and saying these guys don't know how to take their hands off of women.
You know, but I feel like the NFL has done what it can do. I mean, there's there's therapists, there's different sessions where they talk about it at the rookie symposium now. They have a section talking about domestic violence and how that's going down. I really couldn't even tell you what more the NFL could do. I think this is more now just a responsibility on the players themselves to take accountability for themselves and get the help that they need if they're feeling like that. Um, because I feel like the NFL can only do but so much. These are still grown men. They're still independent. When they leave the facility, they do what they do outside of their walls. So I don't know what more the NFL can do. I think it's really now just the guys got to be held accountable, and that's why you got to punish them accordingly when they act up like that.
You're tuned in. If you've been watching Rolling with Ramos, episode 95. To all you Chicago Bears fans out there, is episode 95, the Richard Dent edition. I am the person who runs this whole thing. I'm the one who holds the last name Ramos. I would like to specifically thank my daddy for that one, Mike Ramos in heaven. I love you and I miss you every day. And I'm here with my buddy, my pal, my compadre, my amigo, Tristan. We are still here.
Yep.
We're moving on from the Redskins. At least we don't have any more drama to talk about. It could have been some drama that came out this week, but in true culture change, it was deaded, like you said. Let's move
That's right.
on. Let's
That's right.
move on to some people that's made a lot of money in a particular position. Shout out to the tight ends, because it was one hell of a week to be a tight end.
That's right.
Travis Kelce and George Kittle, they made some bank. According to NFL.com, after George Kittle agreed to a massive 5-year, $75 million extension with the San Francisco 49ers, it's Travis Kelce's turn to dive into the money pit. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported Thursday that the Kansas City Chiefs have agreed to terms with Kelce on a 4-year, $57 million, count 'em, Tristan, extension that will keep him in Kansas City for the next 6 seasons. This is per sources informed of the situation. The deal between $14 million and $15 million per year in new money average. Then they say, turning 31 in October, Kelce had 2 years left on his contract with salary cap figures of $11.2 million in 2020 and $9 million in 2021. The extension will take him well into the back half of his 30s, averaging $9.53 million on his 5-year extension signed in 2016. The new deal will pay the star tight end closer in line to this month. While Kittle's deal came in at a $15 million per year mark, Kelce landed at $14.25 million per year in new money average. Given that Kelce is 5 years older than Kittle, it's a great chunk of change on a third contract for the KC tight end. The tight end market has been woefully behind the worth of top players at the position, thanks largely to Rob Gronkowski taking a below-market deal early on in his career. Kelce
Hmm.
getting a deserved leap in payment is a positive development for the entire position group. Expect Zach Ertz in Philly to be the next tight end in line for a big extension. Perhaps after all three are paid, the top of the tight end market won't look so far behind other positions. The Chiefs, during this pandemic, they paid a lot of people, Tristan. They continued to lock down key starters after signing Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones to massive long-term deals. A key target for Mahomes, Kelce is a passing, catching tight end who can box out corners and safeties. He is not shabby. and outrun linebackers. The five-time Pro Bowler and two-time first-time All-Pro player has generated 4 straight seasons with at least 1,000 receiving yards. In 2 years with Mahomes at the helm, Kelsey has generated 2,565 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. These are wide receiver numbers. The man deserved to get paid.
Listen, Kellen Winslow and Shannon Sharp, they walked, okay, so that Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez could run, so that Travis Kelsey
They were the
and Kittle
forefathers.
can fly. Listen, because that's how it's how it developed. You always had a pair in every era. You had a pair of tight ends that just did something a little different. You had Mike Ditka even before Shannon and all. You had Mike Ditka up there. So each era had their guys. I'm so happy. I've never been more excited. Maybe since Russell Wilson had gotten his contract, I've never been more happy to see two guys get paid for just doing the right thing, just coming in, going to work, do your job, do it to the best of your ability, and you're gonna get paid. Kittle came onto the scene like
Who
I don't think
expected?
anybody expected all that from Kittle, and was just the man. And you know, I knew he was going to get paid. I knew San Francisco was going to pay him. But then when I see um, Travis Kelsey get his money at 31, you kind of in the twilight years, according to some people, when you're in that age range, and so for him to get that kind of money, but I mean, he's an athlete. You talking about an athlete? He's an athlete.
He gonna need that
Um,
money. I heard he just broke up with his girl, but I mean,
and he all right. He okay. He all right. He gonna be all right. He gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? That money is gonna comfort him in the bed. Trust me. Um, I was just so happy to see him get that contract, and it's really shout out to Patrick Mahomes for the kind of deal that he made to allow his guys to get paid. You realize the core of the team is basically going to be there for 6 years for Kansas City. I don't know what the AFC West going to do. I don't know what they're going to do
are
with
you
that.
are you saying dynasty?
Potentially,
If will,
Potentially, they've improved on the defensive side of the ball. Then they got Halir from LSU, who's basically a Brian Westbrook 2.0. So Andy Reid, who has someone like Brian Westbrook, you basically got an improved version of Brian Westbrook coming to Kansas City. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it. But
we're
I'm so glad to see these tight ends get what they needed to get their just due. It did slow because Jason Witten took a pay cut
yeah.
when it was his time. Gronk took a massive pay cut when it was his time to get that big contract for the sake of their team. So it did take a while for us to get here for the tight ends, but now that we're here, I can't wait for Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz definitely deserves his money,
Yes.
especially the way he played last season for the Eagles when they were just depleted of wide receivers. He absolutely should be getting his money. And I'm looking at Evan um, Ingram up in New York Giants, the tight end, because he has to have a breakout season because he can get a good piece of this pie too if he has a great season with the Giants.
If you're saying dynasty, a lot of people in Baltimore, as I sit here and I live here, they're saying that they're not undone based on the season that they had. And then you're sitting there with Lamar Jackson. If you're talking dynasty, where does that put the Ravens? Because let them tell it, they weren't supposed to lose how they lost, and they're trying to come back for the crown. And nothing against Patrick Mahomes, but Lamar Jackson is the culture, and Lamar Jackson is what a lot of people want to see have that trophy in his hand and hoisting it. There's no way in hell the MVP doesn't win it. And I understand Patrick Mahomes is great, but where does that put the Ravens in that conversation and Lamar Jackson in this conversation? If you're saying 6 years of them, the Ravens did their own thing over here, where does it put them?
I mean, we honestly may be looking at a couple of these years where we're looking at the Ravens versus Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, because the Ravens are there, and when you watch what happened to them against the Titans in the divisional round. I mean, they just got bludgeoned by Derrick Henry. And what did they do this offseason to combat that? They went and got Calais Campbell from Jacksonville. and then they drafted Patrick Queen from LSU to shore up that middle in replacement of Mosley, who went to the Jets. So, they just got stronger and bigger, and they already had a great defense last year. So yeah, it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a battle in the AFC between these two guys, and Lamar Jackson is definitely the people's champ right now. As much as people love Patrick Mahomes, but the culture is for Lamar, and they want to see him get a Super Bowl. So I'm personally going to be rooting for Lamar more so than Kansas City. But man,
That's just
Andy
one hell of a
Reid,
game, ain't it?
listen, I don't think people really understand what Andy Reid has at his disposal. When you have a quarterback that can basically do anything on a football field, and then
With
you
the
match that
ball
with
and
a
his
with a
body.
decent exactly, and then you match that with a decent offensive line. You got the fastest receiver in football in Tyreek Hill, but you still got Sammy Watkins, who's probably one of the top 10 fastest players, and you got Nicole Harmon that you drafted a couple years back. Then you got a 6'5" tight end that's athletic and can run just this fast
And can block.
as any tight end and can block. And then you went and got this running back who, like I said, is basically a Brian Westbrook 2.0, but you still got D'Angelo Williams, who could have been the Super Bowl MVP for you instead of Patrick Mahomes. And you have a mind like Andy Reid, an offensive mind like Andy Reid. It's just, I
And
don't know. I
Airbnb.
don't
Let's
know.
not forget him, baby.
And an Airbnb, and then you still get to keep him for another year as your offensive coordinator because for whatever reason he didn't get a whole head coaching job. But it's just the fact that you keep that genius in there still for another year to give a crack at it. I mean, I'm rooting for the Ravens in as far as the AFC. I really want to see the
But
Ravens
damn,
succeed,
that's
but
Madden figures right there, baby.
it really is. It's like in Madden they have an ultimate team thing. Like you almost created that. Like where you just have a bunch of guys that you're just like, I'm gonna take this guy, I'm gonna take this guy, and I'm gonna just put them on one squad. And that's
You know
really
what
what
it
you just kind of
reminds
did.
me of? You know how Mario used to get bigger? That's
Hmm.
how that whole lineup just looks like. That it's gonna be very interesting. Let's finish this off, Tristan. Let's go into another culture, as we
Sure,
will. The
sure.
culture of the bubble. And I know
Yes.
you want to talk about the potential playoff matchups. The East seems like they got it covered. We waiting on the West. So we're gonna talk about that next week. What we
Okay.
gotta talk about is two people that's turning the bubble upside down and a couple of teams that's making eighth and seventh seed, not looking like some teams you don't want to play in the
Right.
first round.
Right.
We put some respect on his flipping name. We ain't gonna say what he said, but you know what he
But
said,
you know.
and rightfully so. He said what he said because you should put some respect on his name. If you ain't never had a dollar, you might want to find Damian Lillard because guess
Okay.
what? The bubble has treated him well. The bubble
Okay.
has treated Portland well. If anybody was looking to get healthy, it was Portland, and look what they've done in this bubble. I'm gonna take you down
Absolutely.
a little bit of a historic timeline, Tristan, with Damian Lillard. And it all started with 10 career 50-point games where he joined an impressive list of folks who had accomplished such a thing. He joined Wilt Chamberlain, who had 118. His airness, Michael Jordan, who had 31. The late, great Kobe Bryant, 25. James Harden at 23. Elgin Baylor had 17. Rick Barry had 14. LeBron James had 12. Bubba Chuck, Allen Iverson had 11. And shout out to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had 10. Then Tristan, he misses two free throws. Two grown-ass men clapping on the sideline. That was ridiculous. Patrick, I want to be in everything Beverly. And I mean, come on. Come on, Paul George. You gotta have a better gumption than that. Two grown men clapping and high-fiving each other on the sideline because this guy missed two free throws. Last time I checked, when he made two that counted, he made it in your face, Paul George, and sent you home. He waved at you goodbye, my brother. So it was a back and forth that went ensued between all three of these guys. I get the competition, but I don't think Tristan watching this that they wanted to do that to Dame Dollar. I don't think that's somebody that you want to ignite a flame because two free throws are nothing, but with what he can do to you later. And speaking of that, then he free throws. And guess what he does, Tristan? He scores 61 points. He becomes the first Blazer with back-to-back 50-point games and gets the W. Put some respect on my name, he says. He also said that them clapping was a sign of respect. Also, since missing them 2 free throws, Tristan, versus the Clippers, he's averaged 56 points per game, 7.5 assists per game, 55 field goal percentage, 44.8 3-point percentage, 97.1 free throw percentage, 40 points in the fourth quarter. Only 2 NBA players have scored 60 points 3 times in one season. That is Damian Lillard and that is Wilt Chamberlain.
That's right.
Even Adidas downgraded his shoes to $61.
I might
Tristan,
cop. I might cop a
how
pair.
can we put
I
going
might do
back
that
to
this
sneakers?
weekend. I might do that this weekend.
How can we put into words what Dame has done in the bubble? The emergence of the Portland Trailblazers, who are now healthy. We saw what Grant has been doing. At this point, you might as well wash yourself, or you're washed. If you thought this man was washed, he had no point to be in this league. You said the league left him. He has passed Paul Pierce as 15 all time on the scoring list. That is Carmelo Anthony. And he is as clutch Torino as you said he never was again. He is the timeless veteran this Portland squad needed. CJ McCollum, he is healthy. The Blazers, there's some teams in this bubble that came in, these high-end teams, thinking that they would be entitled. These lower teams, these lower seeded teams have come in healthy and got something that they needed. And this bubble has been a totally different experience. Does any explain? Can you even put into words what Damian Lillard has been doing? And does anybody want to see Portland when it's time to play in the playoffs?
So let me really talk about this with Dame Lillard. I've always had respect for Dame Lillard since he's been in the NBA. I remember when the NBA 2K cover came out and it said it was Damian Lillard, and I gave a pause. And the reason why I gave a pause was because not because I didn't believe Damian Lillard was a good enough player to get that recognition, but I felt as though because he plays in Portland, does he have the star quality as far as what people, you know, everyday consumer would see, you know? And I got a lot of heat for that because they were like, oh, Damian Lillard, da, 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 da. I was like, I didn't say he was a bad player. I
No.
said I just didn't know if he had the star quality to be a cover person. He wasn't the first thought that came to mind. I thought it would have been Luca or something. He wasn't the first thought that came to mind to be on the cover of NBA 2K. But with that being said, since he's been in the bubble, he's been on a tear, and he's always been on a tear. He said he's one of the best closers in the game. That is no doubt about that. What I've been trying to tell people is that because he's in Portland, you don't really get to fully
Yeah.
appreciate who Dame Lillard is unless he plays one of these big teams, plays against one of these big teams. You don't get to appreciate how good he actually is as a point guard. We talk about his scoring prowess. He also averages about 8 to 9 assists a game. So he's the whole package. He's the whole package. Plays defense, facilitates the basketball, and is a scoring dynamo. So we don't get to really, appreciate what he's doing for the game and who he is. And he's still young. He's not even in the prime yet to say like, we get peak performance of him. No, no, no. He's still got more to go. And I feel like he's at a place where he just feels disrespected by people in the league because he's like, hey man, I'm cranking out all these points just like everybody else. I'm doing my thing. But again, the difference is that he's important, you know. And one of my fraternity brothers said something really hilarious the other day. He said you can tell that he don't really got a lot of friends in the NBA. They're
No.
really co-workers for him. They're co-workers. Like we're colleagues. We're not people. I don't hang with you outside of this. We're literally colleagues in this thing, and that's it.
Besides his
Uh,
teammates, I don't
Besides his
think
teammate,
I don't
besides his
think
teammate.
that I don't think that he's I think I've seen him comment under other people's stuff. I've seen people comment as far as him,
I'm,
Carmelo. I've
I'm
seen
not
Allen
saying he.
Iverson talk to him, but he doesn't have, like, if they're going to All-Star break, I don't know how much he's in the mix.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I mean. So it's like, not that he's unfriendly, but I just think he goes about his business. I really think he treats the
Yeah,
NBA like that. Like he goes about his business on what he's supposed to do. And I'm happy for him, and I'm as a Lakers fan, I'm completely nervous about going against the
woo,
Blazers. Completely, because people forget Nurkic Nurkic is looking great in the bubble as
yes,
well. Whiteside is the enforcer. You don't need Whiteside to do anything else. You just need him to be an enforcer. So you still got C.J. McCollum. You got Gary Trent Jr., who's not scared to shoot the shot at all. Carmelo's looking great. He even turned back the hands of time a little bit the other day. I mean, it's just they're a loaded team. They're healthy. They got size. You know, they people forget that Trevor Ariza is on that team. You got another
yes.
defender that can
We
at
all know
least
where he be on
antagonize
Laker
LeBron.
brand.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm just saying, like, this is a team. If there was a team that was going to make me nervous as a Laker fan, like early on in the playoff series, it would be Portland.
The thing about Portland, if they get the eighth seed, is we won't get a chance to see John Morant in playoff basketball, which is unfortunate with how awesome
But Memphis
the
isn't ready
Grizzlies
yet.
have
Memphis
not
isn't
been
ready.
able to turn
Yeah,
bubble play into
yeah,
regular season play as they were before. We've seen New
yeah.
Orleans get ousted out of it. I mean, the West is very important because you could also see a lot of predictable outcomes, but you could also see some upsets. Because I also don't think that the Clippers, who still look like they're trying to figure each other out, I don't think they want to see Dallas neither.
I agree.
As
I
Luka's
agree
playing and balling out.
because it looked
Speaking
like
of
they. It
war
looked,
in the West, I'm sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was saying because even the other game, it just looked like the Clippers still haven't really gotten that continuity. I saw some frustration coming out of Kawhi. It just seems like they still haven't really gotten that continuity together yet. So you're right. You're definitely right about that.
Some ins and outs because we're not gonna talk about matchups. We have to talk about matchups next week because we're gonna get the West perspective. Honorable mention. Shout out to Devin Booker. I know they're undefeated. I don't think Phoenix is gonna get that final spot. But hey, listen, if they're going to find Draymond Green for his comments, hey, call me a
Listen,
tamperer. Call me somebody who's tampering. He needs to get out of Phoenix.
he needs to
You
get
know
out.
where he
Now,
needs
but
to go?
he just signed. Remember, he just signed that contract last year, so he ain't leaving no time soon. But
He ain't leaving Phoenix no
man,
time.
man,
Hopefully they put somebody around this young cat because he's proven what he can actually do. Because
it's
you
a
don't want someone like that wasting time. That's another market.
it's a
Thank God
crime.
for Steve Nash for years, but Phoenix is not the
It's a
market
crime.
where Kelly Oubre's down there. Please put something around these young guys. And I was pissed off when the Wizards got rid of him too. I was really
Yeah,
upset about that. Russell Westbrook, last thing, to miss part of the Rockets' first round series with the quad strain. Depending on Tristan, depending how well he does in his treatment, how much is this a blow for Houston? Where does this
it's a
put
huge
James Harden? Because James Harden actually has to be a star now.
it's a huge blow because it puts the weight back on James Harden, and we've seen in the past when it came playoff time, it ain't it. So that it's a huge blow. It's definitely a huge blow. I was devastated for Russell when that happened.
I'm very critical of James Harden.
A lot of people are.
I feel that when it comes to superstars, we just talk about Dame Lillard and how much he gets when he wanted to stay in Portland, and he made a decision to stay in Portland. He had a lot of people jump on him for that. Chris Paul for a lot of years, Kobe, all the stars. If their teams aren't reaching a certain caliber or reaching a certain expectations, or them by themselves aren't reaching a certain expectations, we as media, we drag them. We let them know that they're not reaching up to par levels. When it comes to James Harden, you stay there for a minute and then you quickly leave. It's okay for him to want to talk about how every year he's supposed to be in this MVP conversation and he wants to hoist all these MVP regular season banners. But we see you at a point in your career when you can bring it up to a top level and you can and change the narrative, and you choke there Because there's no way
Right.
last year they should have lost that series against the Warriors with what we had in Golden State. You had a complete depleted team where their top wasn't even in top tier. Houston should have won that series. But what ends up happening is it's everybody's fault but James Harden. If Carmelo's there, oh, he was supposed to be the Messiah of the Houston Rockets. He should not have went there. That was a horrible decision. But he was supposed, but the same problems that happened when he was there or before he got there are the same problems that Houston is there now. Even if they're at the top of the Western Conference, they're not the top team in the Western Conference. And it's okay for James Harden to lose the Western Conference Finals every year and then go party it up with a Kardashian. I think we have to start holding James Harden accountable if he is the star that he
Absolutely.
claims he is.
Absolutely. It's time. It's time. It's been time for James Harden. If we're going to be critical about Damian Lillard, if we're going to be critical about Carmelo when Carmelo was in his prime, if we're going to be critical about Kevin Durant, we gotta be critical about James Harden. You are considered one of the best prolific scorers in NBA history too, just like the rest of these guys. You got to be held to a standard as well. It's time now. You've knocked on the door long enough, and it's not even the fact. It'd be a little easier to swallow if he was someone that he was balling out, but the team just wasn't good enough. No, you visibly have choked in postseason play, so that's why we're getting on you because you visibly have looked like you're choked up on postseason play. So yeah, we got to. It's time. I've been on that with James Harden. Awesome in regular season, choke artist in postseason. Something's got to give.
And what's got to give the unfortunateness of that this is over. Episode 95 is in the books. Woohoo! Are we going to get cake for 100?
I can't.
Oh, we got to do something virtually for 100. I got to do something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got to do something.
But anyways, episode 96, we're not going to tell them who we're going to pay homage to next week. But Tristan, we're back. We completed the show.
We completed the show.
Don't worry, gonna put this puppy on all our social media platforms.
Yeah.
Gonna get you
Yes.
rolling. You're gonna see it. By the way, because I haven't had a chance to say this personally to you, this wonderful man of God here, I heard you singing. I listened to the whole thing. Awesome. Awesome. If you haven't checked him out, please check him out. And we'll be back next week. I'ma say it because I can actually say it. We still in the coronavirus, but we're back, baby. I'm gonna say it like I say it every week. I'm not lying when I say this. I am Mikkel. I come Mikkel next week, Tristan.
Next week.
96. So
I'm
see you
ready.
later.
I'm excited. All right.
Peace, America.
Peace.